Good evening. I'd like to call the Board of Selectmen meeting to order. It's Wednesday, October 11th. May I have a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Vignani and second by Mr. Harris. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Good evening. So tonight we have a short meeting. First order of business is, Al, I know we want to discuss the emergency response from yesterday with Chief Stewart. Did you have anything you
Thank you,
wanted to
Madam
add?
Chairman. Yes, I would like to ask, we've asked Chief Stewart to come and debrief the board on the activities of yesterday. I know it was had a great effect on our community, and we have a very nice outcome, and I think the chief is prepared to discuss that and perhaps introduce a few of the key players.
Terrific. Chief? Good evening.
Thank you. Good evening. As you know, yesterday we had a situation that escalated beyond the control of the resources of the Scituate Police Department. The Scituate Police Department has been a member of Metrolec for 3 years now. We have 2 officers trained as SWAT operators with them. That's Officer Donovan and Officer Kirkbride, Detective Kirkbride. We also have, as part of the Metrolec, we work in their Marine unit. We have 2 officers assigned to that. We also have 2 officers assigned to their dive team as well. Yesterday's action, we had a 46-year-old male who was despondent. He was acting strange. The female operator that he was in a vehicle with, as they were going by the police station, she ordered him out of the car. As soon as he was out, she immediately placed a call to 911, concerned with his well-being and the fact that he might harm himself. As officers went out onto Route 3A, they couldn't find him. Traffic was backed up. It was bumper to bumper from construction just over the line in Cohasset. And they went up and down 3A. They couldn't locate him. During this period, some of the officers had stopped on 3A, and the subject called the station and indicated that he was armed with 2 Kimber model 1911 45 calibers and handguns, and each had 14 rounds of ammunition in it. He also had a K-bar military-style knife. He indicated that if he is approached, he will shoot law enforcement, and that he will harm himself. He said somebody's going to die today. As things develop based on these circumstances, we had a position on Route 3A. We stopped traffic on Route 3A. We had a location. He indicated that he could see police officers on the street. So we indicated to him we're going to maintain that presence. We felt that by maintaining that presence, despite the a distinct tactical disadvantage, he can see us, we can't see him, that our presence there was significant in keeping him from moving. And we didn't want him getting further into the woods and losing track of where he might be. We felt that at that time, if he can see us, he's hunkered down somewhere, within 50 yards in the woods, and we want to keep him there. So we left certain officers in that area. They were watching both sides of the road because we didn't know if he was on the northeast corner or the northwest corner at this time. We assumed, and with good reason, logic, that he might be in the northeast corner. He made several other phone calls to the station. He reiterated his point. If we approach him in any way, he will shoot. He was getting more and more aggressive during these calls. A decision was made to get Metrolec SWAT team rolling in our direction. We had the fortune of having Metrolec Marine Unit training already scheduled, so we had a number of operators already en route, and we had canine resources already en route for training. And Officer Brian McLaughlin was working a detail. He was summoned to the scene. Officer McLaughlin has been part of Metrolec SWAT canine unit for, I think, 5 or 6 years now. He has been involved in several, if not dozens, of large-scale deployments, such as what we were going to be looking at. He was called to the scene, and he coordinated the Metrolec response from there. Officer McLaughlin. Can you stand up? Officer McLaughlin's role in this was very helpful to the deputy and I. As we're trying to maintain control over the scene, he was significant in, establishing good communications with Metrolec, getting them established at the station. And Officer Donovan, he was also summoned to the scene. Officer Donovan is a SWAT operator. The beauty of this is within 5 minutes, we have people armed and arm trained and with the proper equipment, protective equipment, to start taking over, seeing if this starts breaking bad on us in a hurry. Officer Donovan. Officer Donovan was he was deployed with the Metro SWAT unit. He was in the arrest team that went into the woods and ultimately placed the subject in custody. During the initial stages of this, as this subject kept calling the police station, Dispatch Supervisor Barbara DeWolf began taking his calls. Dispatcher DeWolf did an amazing job. I went back and I was listening to the conversations today, and she did an amazing job trying to calm this person down, to no avail, but it wasn't for lack of effort. She didn't get excited. Her demeanor was excellent throughout the entire ordeal. Officer Fred Malouf he was working a detail. He had left that detail. He responded to the station. He had learned that this subject was indicating that he was ex-military, that it was said that he was in the Marines for 14 years, that he was indicating he suffered significant PTSD, and that, so Officer Malouf went and he took over conversations with this party, and he maintained a significant rapport with this party up until negotiators with Metrolec started arriving. Once they arrived, Officer Malouf and several Metrolec negotiators were placed in the roll call room at the new facility. From that area, they were able to pull up on a screen an overview of the area, and we started receiving pings as far as this person's location. Officer Malouf remained with this group for for 2 to 3 hours until this incident was over. He did a tremendous job on the phone with this person. And every officer that was present there, I mean, I could go up and down the list of officers who arrived off duty. They dropped what they were doing, arranged to have child care issues taken care of, and as soon as they could get up there, they went up there. And it was a significant group from our department that arrived. In a packet that I left for you there, it's just a situational summary. In there, you'll see other departments that arrived as a result of the Metrolec response. We also, the mutual aid between Scituate and our surrounding towns. We've always had a great relationship with them. If they call, we show up, and we show up as significant help for them, and it's a reciprocal agreement. Marshfield sent several units up here yesterday. They got to backfill their units, obviously, but we had 4 detectives, we had the chief, we had a lieutenant, 2 lieutenants, and several officers, and that helped us establish a perimeter around this thing in short order. Cohasset arrived with multiple units. They also had their chief on scene. We were able to give their chief responsibility for traffic control, so he drove the perimeter. We ultimately, on Countryway, moved things back to Hollitt Street and diverted traffic Hollitt to Gannett and through the village. But it was one less thing that we had to deal with, getting calls on situations like that. We put the school in a shelter-in-place mode. At some point, that was turned into a lockdown. When we realized that, we advised them to go back to a shelter-in-place. The difference with a shelter-in-place is that they stay at their desks and they assume normal activities, but they don't go out to recess. They don't basically leave that room. The lockdown is they go in the corner and they wait for further instruction. While they stayed in a lockdown mode for over an hour, we have had communications with the school. There was some miscommunication there, and there was a meeting today to make sure that that doesn't happen, and that during incidents like this, that every 15 minutes they will receive a briefing. So we will be alerted to any change in status within the school, and they'll be alerted to any change in status with whatever threat exists. We also deployed officers to those schools, just as comfort security, additional comfort security. The working out of the new facility, it would have been possible out of an old facility. The new facility received multiple compliments on the EOC. Before we had a command post set up in the parking lot, the Metrolock operates out of a Marine command post. We had we had pings being accepted so we could see inside the EOC. We could see in an overview where that phone was. And there was a period of time around 10:30 that the subject put his phone down, and it was an open line, and he didn't communicate for over an hour. Our concern was that he had mentioned already that he knew we were going to track him via his phone, that our concern was that he put this down and he just moved. After about an hour, he picked up the phone and again started communicating with Officer Maloof. And this was significant in that now we see where that phone is, and now that phone's back in his hand. So he's there as well. It was based on this information that we deployed 2 Bearcats to that area, the SWAT transport vehicles, along with a Rook. It's a Bobcat type looking vehicle. It's also armor. Scituate units who had maintaining a perimeter on Route 3A within sight of this individual were removed from the scene. Every decision made by Metrolec, they have Lieutenant Tim Cahoon, who's with Braintree Police. They have Lieutenant Chris Baker with Franklin Police, and Chief Mike Botieri with Plymouth. Those are the leadership that responded to the scene. Every decision they make gets bounced off me. Is it okay to deploy the Rook into the woods to try to locate the subject? Yes. Is it okay to, deploy any forms of less lethal? Yes. It's significant that the Scituate Police, whether it's the chief or the deputy chief, maintain control over this situation. Ultimately, we are going to be the ones answering to anything that happens as a result of this, actions. So, again, I was very pleased with the SWAT response. Very, very professional. These guys train hard. They train every week. And as Officer Donovan will tell you, it can get monotonous, their training. They train that way for a reason. And once the Rook made entrance into the woods, the Rook was able to locate this subject. He was laying down in the woods. Once he was given commands to expose his hands, put his hands on his chest. Once he had done that, additional SWAT team members were deployed behind the Rook, behind the armor. And once it was safe to do so, they came around and they placed the subject in custody. And, at that point, we started the de-escalation process and, get things back to normal. The subject, I want to update you on this. As of the press conference yesterday, the subject was being processed, he was being booked. It was during that booking process that it was determined he did need to go to the hospital. He was transported to the hospital. He was placed under prisoner watch overnight and transported to Hingham District Court this morning. After the press conference, we had investigators interview Officer Maloof, Dispatcher DeWolf, Sergeant Martin, all those who had communications with this subject. And we also pulled the tapes, the recorded phone call tapes. And based on the information that we gleaned from that, we consulted with the district attorney's office, and it was determined that we would place charges against him. So he was charged with assault, dangerous weapon. He was charged with threats to commit a crime, to would kill a police officer, disorderly, and resisting arrest. He was given ample opportunities to come out of the woods, and he refused to do so. And that's what it was, the level of the threat that dictated the level of the response. And while activations such as this, it creates significant disruption. We closed the main road in Scituate. We had to divert traffic through neighborhoods. We limited access to neighborhoods. And we impacted 3 of the schools. But this is the way that these situations are handled in this day and age, not just by Scituate or any city and town in the state, and for that matter the country, would have handled this the same way. You're not going to go in the woods and approach this subject with street officers. You need special trained equipment and officers to handle that situation. And while I'm very proud of the roles that all the Scituate police officers and administrative staff and our civilian personnel got actively involved in this operation yesterday, I'm very, very happy and thankful with the response that we get from Metrolec. It's a good feeling to know that within a short period of time that we can put significant resources together to manage these incidents safely. The bottom line is this person goes to the hospital, he's safe. All right, he's got some criminal issues that he's got to deal with, but at the end of the day, all of our officers and all the SWAT officers go home safe as well.
Well, I'll start. Can't thank you enough. I think you all demonstrated a level of professionalism that puts the utmost confidence in the residents of Scituate that, we have a force that can keep us safe in these type of situations. I personally just getting the feedback and the communication all morning long, appreciate the level of communication that you provided, not only to the board, but obviously to the school department, and to the rest of the citizens of the town. Very important for us to be kept apprised of the situation, just to know, right? Just to have that information. So can't thank you enough, and to the level of service that you gave to the rest of the town. And I know the superintendent of schools wrote a note to you as well to express his gratitude. You expressed, some corrections that you want to make. I think he is very happy and pleased with the level of communication and precautions that you all took. And I know I felt safe all day with all the text messages I was getting, because I have the utmost confidence in all of you. And I just want to say thank you on behalf of the town and the residents of Scituate. Well done to all of you. Thank you. Sean?
I'm going to repeat what she said, but I as well, as a dad, as a husband and all that stuff, thank you guys, each and every one of you. And how does this board reach out to Cohasset, Marshfield, and the other units, or is that something you guys do internally, reach out?
I've already reached out to some of the chiefs involved and thanked them for their response. It was over the top, and we needed it.
Right.
And but I will continue that in the coming days. Please extend it from this board. I was out of state, and I think it was, one of my coworkers, what's going on, and I made a few text messages and found out what was happening. But I can't thank you guys enough, and that's all this practice. Finally pays. You hate to have to, put it in place, but it's there, and it's comforting to know. Can I ask a couple of questions, though? I mean, it felt like it was pretty cool. Sure. When all this organization comes into place, in the Metrolec, is that how you pronounce it? Metrolec, LEC.
All right, they come in. Council. Are you still calling the shots, and you're led? All right, so still everything goes through you.
Yeah, they will come up. We go on the command post, and as situations arise, if they feel the need to deploy any less lethal, or in a situation, if it was a situation in the house, if they felt the need to take out a street light or to, then they'll bounce it off the police chief first, and you authorize them taking out the light in front of the house with a BB gun. We've gone, the deputy and I have gone to other towns during these call-outs, and we witnessed how these things play out. And we just sit there and listen to the radio. We're not part of their operation. We sit back and we listen to how these things play out, because in having done that is hugely beneficial to us when it starts playing out here. And, you know, just taking the time to have done that made a big difference yesterday.
Right. And one other comment, you know, you made me think, your dispatcher, you know, I think of a dispatcher being trained on the 911 calls. My husband's having chest pains and things like that. So they're trained to walk people through. But boy, whoever was in charge, and then Fred, were you involved afterwards? To try to calm that person down, that's another whole level. Do they get training like this? I mean, I never really thought of it. You always think of
Training takes you so far.
Right.
I mean, you prepare for situations like this, but as it's playing out, you know, your experiences in your training, it moves you forward. And if it's something that you've never dealt with before, you feel pretty comfortable with how you're handling it. And when we tried to establish communication with the subject from the street, and we kind of felt that if we could, and he could look out and he could see us on the phone with him, that it might create a more personal touch to him, and he might decide to come to the Woodline and discuss things with us. It became apparent that was not going to happen. He kept hanging up on attempts to do that, but he was comfortable repeatedly calling the police station. So Barbara DeWolf established a great rapport with him. That was taken over by Officer Maloof, and you know, it was all the information that they were getting was relayed to us on the street, and we were able to make decisions, you know, factoring in his demeanor, you know, what he's saying he has for weapons, and the threat that he might pose if he has the military experience, which he was saying he did.
Right. And how do you know any different? You don't.
We don't.
Right. Is she the dispatcher?
Yes, she's a dispatch supervisor.
Awesome.
She took control of those calls and did an outstanding job.
Right. Thank you.
Great job.
Yeah, I mean, I'll repeat it. It was obviously a once in a lifetime almost situation that we had here, and you guys handled it great. I have kids in the schools, and felt, as a couple of you do as well, felt very confident, proud of the actions that you guys took, and you know, knew that you guys would protect the town and protect all our kids. So I want to thank you for doing that and handling it in a manner that no one got hurt, either police officer or the person. So, you know, the street was closed, and so be it. You know, and the kids sat in the closet for a little while, but, you know, considering that everything else worked out perfectly, that's the least that we can, you know, pay for that. So thank you guys all for your service.
Thank you.
Chief, Deputy, I just want to say thank you for the thorough report. Clearly, it certainly explains what happened yesterday for us, and so I want to thank you for doing that. To the officers and to Mr. Wolf, thank you for your participation in doing it. Now, as a parent, as a citizen, you know, I have to tell you, hearing about the situation, certainly so close to what has happened in certain other areas, certainly in Las Vegas, but other areas throughout the world, you know, the country here, it's scary. It's really frightening to think that this can go on. And, you know, you should be very proud, the town should be proud of all your officers and the dispatchers for doing what they did. And I'll tell you why. Because these things, they're getting so more realistic that they could happen. And I have to tell you, you have to make a call. You made the right call. You don't know what these people are like. You don't know how skilled they are. And at least we were able to get a gauge, I guess, of he had some skills, he had some ability, he had some weapons. I mean, I feel bad for the officers on 3A having to wait to see, you know, because you just don't know if they decides to take a shot. And despite whatever his condition is, despite whatever his history is, you don't know that at the point in time. And I know that, you know, trying to at least say, okay, well, we can deal with him going forward. No, you did the right thing. You know, people have to take responsibility for their actions, and putting officers in potentially danger, people in town, they need to be accounted for. And so I have no issue with obviously saying to the district attorney's office, take it from here. But getting back to what you folks did, it's sad that we have to be prepared for this. I'm glad that we have a emergency training, or emergency operating center to make it work better for you, to keep you safer. And the sad part is that you're in that line of fire, so to speak, or danger. I remember, I think it was 2 years ago, there was an incident where somebody pulled a knife, and you were able to talk them off without trying to commit suicide or trying to injure an officer. I mean, you're faced with that almost on a daily basis with your job. And I know that from what I see in my profession, and I really do say thank you, because you're in that line of danger daily. And from my standpoint, we're very fortunate to have you folks representing us. And the same with the dispatching. It's not the same of like 911 calls. You're dealing with a whole host of issues, and your demeanor on the phone can make or break a situation. It's a really huge responsibility, but you do a great job, and so thank you for taking that. And if there's anything that you need from us going forward, I saw the equipment. I'm glad we have it. Anything that you need at your disposal, that's the reason why we have it, for incidents like this, whether it's for emergency rescues during storms or a situation like this that could easily get out of hand. And with the schools, working with the schools, I don't care what the issues are as far as like timing and shutting things down. That's okay. We'd just rather be safe than sorry, and then say we wish we had done something differently. You did it well. And
Thank
I
you.
just say thank you, and thank you all.
We appreciate your support as well.
No, thank you, and I just publicly want to thank you for working collectively, too, with the fire department that supported you. Chief Murphy helped a little bit with the communication to the community as well, and I think it was a
Absolutely.
great demonstration of a great partnership that the
Yes, it
two
is.
departments have, so thank you to all.
All right, thank you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for coming in. Great to see you, and
Brian, thank you.
get some rest tonight.
Take the rest of the hour off.
Yeah. Okay.
I also want to thank you for keeping us in the loop.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thanks.
During it. It was,
It's not,
It's quite a shock to be doing your everyday job, and at 8:35 get a call with that information. It changes one's day.
Al, you've taken on a responsibility for the town, and I'll tell you, was probably not part of the job requirements. So thank you. Because I'll tell you, you do a great job, and under the circumstances, who'd have thought something like this could happen?
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, you all have a job to do, and you're doing it well, too. I mean, you volunteer for this time and again.
All righty. Thanks, Al. Okay, next on the agenda is, we will be moving, did you have a question?
We could write thank you letters to the selectmen.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I was
I think
going to
we
say
should.
that,
Send
yeah,
them
to
to the
the
town.
different towns.
And thank them.
Just do get a list of the towns and
Yep.
draft something.
I think they're in here.
That'd be great, yeah. It's in, did he
It's
give
in
you
the
a copy
report.
of the incident report? Oh, I'll give you mine.
You can have-
Yeah,
yeah.
You can have one of ours.
Okay,
I'll give you that.
email it to
Yeah,
Okay.
no, that's exactly what I was going to
Yeah.
say. I think we're on the
Excellent.
same page.
Okay.
Follow up on that.
All righty. So we are going to move into an executive session, and we will reconvene in open session. We're going to move in to consider the strategy and preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel regarding the town administrator position, and the board will reconvene in open session. So do I have a motion?
So moved? Oh, wait.
I think you have
Move
to
the Board
read
of
it.
Selectmen go into executive session to
Thank you.
consider strategy and preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel, the town administrator's position. The board will reconvene in open session.
We now do a roll call vote. Ms. Curran?
Yes.
Mr. Vignani?
Yes?
Mr. Danahy?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.